Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon everyone. In this topic, we will learn about the roles and responsibility of a project manager. We will focus on understanding why the project manager needs to juggle several responsibilities at the same time that requires high-order leadership qualities and excellent communication as well as interpersonal skill. Then we will closely examine the various responsibility that needs to be shouldered by project manager and the specific skills that are required to effectively discharge such responsibility. A project manager is a person who has the overall responsibility for the successful initiation, planning, design, execution, monitoring, controlling, and closure of the project. Project manager is responsible to complete the project within time, cost, and quality towards making the project a success. In doing so, project manager must be a generalist that can oversee many functional areas such as planning, controlling, organizing, budgeting, staff, and directing. Project manager must also have the ability to put together all tasks and make a project a success. Please note that the roles and responsibility of project manager differ from one company to another. For example, being in client organization requires a different responsibilities from a contractor's organization, mainly due to different tasks associated with the organization. I will explain the difference in the later slides. Therefore, it is important to understand what role a particular project manager will play in certain company or organization. Project manager roles are differ according to his or her organization. It can be divided into two approaches: the system approach and the facilitator and generalist. For a system approach, a project manager is usually work in a government or institution department who has the authorities to implement the work such as develop a system or policy making. For example, working in Public Work Department or JKR requires the project manager to evaluate the delay problem arises due to COVID-19 pandemic, identify solutions and therefore develop system or policy for all parties involved in the project. For a second approach, usually a project manager working in a contractor or developer organization where the task is to handle by many areas from inception phase right up to the closing phase. In this case, the project manager need to be a facilitator to the project team throughout the project. He or she also need to be a generalist where all information about the project is in his or her fingertip. Or in other words, he or she must know all information related to the project in order to disseminate the information to the project team. In managing a project, there are three major questions faced by project manager that are: what needs to be done, which means what are the activities involved in the project? When must it be done, which means are there a planning and scheduling for each activities? Which activities start first and which activities follows? Which are the critical activities? And what are the resources required for the activities? Resources here means skilled and unskilled labor, materials, plant and machineries. And how will they be obtained? It is through contract with supplier, credit by supplier, local or foreign laborers. So these three main questions are important to be asked before the project starts, as this is to ensure that the project runs smoothly. This is the project life cycle, and you should have familiar with this figure as I have repeatedly showed this in the other lecture sessions. The life cycle of a project, referring to the phases of the projects, starts from the inception phases, followed by planning and execution, monitoring and controlling, and finally closing of a project. For each phases in the life cycle, project manager has specific roles and responsibility. For example, during the conception phase, project manager is required to prepare and present the project charter to the client. This involves project objectives, feasibility studies, market studies, so on and so forth. Once the approval from the client is obtained, project manager will proceed to definition and planning phase, where project activities are identified and planning and scheduling is developed. When the construction phase commencing, project manager need to monitor and control the project according to the time and cost baseline. When the project is near completion, project manager will then plan for project closure, where post-construction meeting need to be conducted among the project team members, and lesson learned from the project can be presented for future project. As mentioned earlier, project manager must be a generalist. This means that he or she must know all information related to the project at timely basis. Information such as organizing, staffing, budgeting, directing, planning, and controlling that are the key roles of project manager during all phases throughout the project. Planning. Planning means project manager must look ahead of important project elements such as scheduling, duration, number or quantity and type of resources, cost for each activities, so on and so forth. The main role of a project manager lies in the pre-construction stage, where planning is the key task. Here, the main role of project manager is the preparation of schedule in accordance with the target, project requirement, allocation of resources, plan view, and goal setting. Organizing is where project managers select project team and determine the team's responsibility. Staffing is where project manager recruits the right worker with appropriate qualifications or experience for the position in the project. Budgeting is where project manager is responsible to create the spending plan and determine in advance whether the project will have enough to proceed activities money throughout the project. In other words, budgeting simply means balancing project expenses with the original project cost. Directing is where project manager is responsible to instruct, guide, and oversee the performance of the project team to achieve the project goals. And finally, controlling is where the project manager is responsible to measure the project progress towards the project goals and bring any deviation for corrective action. As mentioned earlier in earlier slides, project manager responsibilities are differ from organization to organization. It can be divided into 4 categories, which are responsibility to parent organization, responsibility to the client, responsibility to the team members and staff, and responsibility to project. Responsibility to parent organization means the organization where project manager is currently attached to. He or she works in the developer or client, for example, JKR, or maybe SIMW or PKNS development. Responsibility to client means where project manager works in contractor organization but managing PKNS project. In this case, PKNS is the client to the project. Responsibility to team members and staff means project manager responsible to his or her project team and staff. And lastly, responsibility to the project means project manager responsible in managing the project from the inception phase to the closing phase. The next slides will explain the project manager responsibility according to the organization where he or she attached to. Being in the either contractor or client or consultant organization, project manager is responsible to conserve the use of resources, In other words, utilize optimum resources so that the project can be managed efficiently. Next is communication. Project manager is responsible to communicate with all project teams and stakeholders on a timely and accurate manner so that up-to-date information can be disseminated among the team members. Project manager is responsible to manage the project carefully and competently so that the project can complete on time, within cost, and according to the quality. Project manager is responsible to identify project risks and mitigation action to protect the organization from facing with contract or law-related problems. For example, project faced with delay due to COVID-19 pandemic, where client has imposed liquidated asset damage to contractor of being late. Lastly, project manager is responsible to report accurately of the project status and progress related to budget and schedule baseline. The tools and techniques such as earned value management and Microsoft Project may help project manager in reporting the progress accurately. In terms of responsibility to client, project manager is required to ensure the project performance, project budget, and project schedule are met. Preserve integrity of project and client. In other words, keep all information about the client and the project confidential. This is very important, especially to a high-profile project that requires confidentiality. For example, nuclear plant for an alternative electric source. It is very crucial and sensitive to the society and press. Project manager also responsible to identify conflict within project teams, analyze the conflict and resolve the conflict by using dispute resolution that maybe require arbitration. Project manager is responsible to make sure that his or her team members are in a good working environment in terms of fairness, respect, and honesty, concern for their future, for example, where they will be posted in the next project, and also their promotion and career development. Safety at site by using proper safety gears and harness, safety boots, safety helmet, proper storage and tidy off construction sites. Provide a good working environment, especially accommodations and utilities at site for site workers. Welfare to staff and workers, for example, the supply for shortage of food for site workers during the movement control order caused by COVID-19 pandemic, and always motivate staff to complete the project. And project manager must use his or her ability to influence team members in a very personal way. Project manager responsible for project in terms of proper planning for project schedule, cost and resources, selecting suitable construction method and technology. For example, the approach of sustainable construction very demanding nowadays. Therefore, project manager is required to propose for green material and green technology for the project. Using optimum resources so that the project waste can be minimized. For example, concrete waste can be minimized if proper planning on the resources is conducted. Project manager is responsible to coordinate all activities with client, authorities, contractor, suppliers, consultant, and other team members related to the project. Project manager is responsible to control project costs, project progress, and safety throughout the project. As a summary, these are the overall responsibility of project manager. In managing a project manager is also responsible to all 10 knowledge areas addressed by Project Management Institute. They are integration, scope, time, cost, quality, human resources, communication, risk, procurement, and stakeholder. You may read the details of each area in PMBOK reference textbook. In becoming a good project manager, the following qualities or characteristics are required from a project manager. This is called as attributes that a project manager should possess, and they are strong technical background, a mature individual, someone on good terms with senior executives, a person who can keep the project team happy, and one who has worked in several different departments. In selecting project manager for a project, there are 4 key criteria need to be highlighted. Credibility, the quality of being trusted and believed in. Sensitivity, the quality or condition of being sensitive. Leadership and management style, and ability to handle stress. Now, let's look at the first criteria, credibility. Credibility means the quality of being trusted and believed in. This also means that the project manager must be able to handle all the project information and its activities and able to lead the project team to achieve the project objectives. Project manager must know the scope of the project, the timelines, allocation of project resources and its budget, able to identify risks and mitigate them, and able to know the project status. In achieving the project objectives, project manager must also possess 2 types of credibility. Technical credibility. Technical credibility is referred to the technical knowledge that project manager possess in managing the project. But how much of technical knowledge, whether it is sufficient or not? That is from the perspective of the project team, clients, and other members in the project. The second type of credibility is administrative, and this consists of keeping project reports up to date with the current progress that relate to schedule and cost, and ensuring all information disseminate to project team members so that they will have the access to the material, equipment, and labor in timely manner. In terms of sensitivity is concerned, project manager must able to understand the organization's political structure. Each organization are different and they usually implement different policies and regulation that results in different organization culture. For example, organization culture in JKR, which is the government or public sector, is different from organization culture implemented in a private sector for Samdabi or Sunway Development, for instance. Project manager must able to sense interpersonal conflict on the project teams or between team members and outsiders. Knowing the situation and problems, project manager can be able to solve the conflict at the point of time before it escalates. And last but not least is how project manager able to handle stress. Stress has always been an issue in the society, sectors, and disciplines. Stress, health, and well-being are all interrelated, and if this is not properly handled, stress can damage body and mind. In construction project, there are 4 causes of stress, and they are caused by tedious set of procedure and techniques. For example, when a project is complex and requires high technology system to handle, the system itself is too complicated for the team members, and this could lead to stressful operation. Too much of workload. As you all already know by now that project manager has many areas and scope to cover. On top of that, project manager needs to juggle the triple constraint that makes the workload become more stressful. High target and expectation. Some project managers are very ambitious and dedicated to complete the project on time, within cost and quality as planned. But in reality, project usually hits with unpredictable issues. Take for example, the COVID-19 pandemic that gives impact to the project that resulted to delay and increase in cost. None of us would have predicted that this will happen. And for most project manager, dealing with this issue has resulted in stressful condition. Major change experiencing by parent organization. This could probably be the merging of parent sub-companies to reduce the expenditure costs resulted to retrenching numbers of staffs. That's the end of today's lecture. I hope you understand the importance of project manager roles and responsibilities. You may now proceed to the quiz to assess your understanding on this topic. So, good luck, goodbye, and Assalamualaikum.